Hi.
Hi. Hi, I'm Alli.
I'm Andrei.
And this is the Love is Blind podcast.
Yeah.
We are here to talk about season 6, episode 4, called
The hardest decision of my life. Tensions escalate when two participants fall in love with the same person who must make a tough decision. Another contestant puts a ring on it.
Puts a Ring on It. First, I know. I thought it too. Quick Bentley update. Bentley just was returned to his owner, which
we're sad because
we're a little sad about.
We miss Bentley. Bentley was really adorable.
Yeah, he was a really good cat, but we are happy to see that be reunited. But we know that you were all at the edge of your seat after episode 3 recap, so wanted to get you caught up to speed and also remind you that if you like our podcast, then please subscribe and give us 5-star ratings, only 5 stars, not 4 stars, 5 stars. And yeah, like follow us on the various podcasting platforms that we're on. Andrei handles that. I don't know where. I think we're on all of your podcasting platforms. But let's go ahead and dive right in.
Right.
Yeah.
So lots happening in this episode. There's obviously the one sort of dramatic tension that the episode culminates in, but we begin with a discussion in the women's quarters about peeing in the shower and pools. And look, I'm all for peeing in a shower.
The consensus seems to be shower's okay, pool is not okay.
Not okay. I think I'm there.
And I think I'm also there. To be honest, where I live, there's a common pool, and I had sort of forgotten that peeing in a pool was a thing. And now being reminded of this, I'm like, oh no.
Oh, you had forgotten that some people might be doing that.
Right. Yeah. It was
blissful.
It was blissful. And now I've been brought back to reality.
Do you remember those times when you were a kid and people were like, there's a chemical in the pool and if you pee, the water will turn red?
Oh, purple.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely remember that.
Right. I don't know if that's actually true.
I don't know. I kind of think it's true, but anyway, I don't have that chemical. It is mostly adults who share the pool with me, so I'm hoping that means something. But it was an unnerving crash.
Right. So we move on to Jeremy.
Not much more to say about that.
Speaking of peeing in the pool? No. Okay. Jeremy
and Sarah Ann, they are painting, and Sarah Ann is basically like, You're great. You're wonderful. I've never felt like this before. I'm all in.
Right. Yeah. And it seems to be the case that he in the previous episode had been pretty specifically picked, like strongly leaning towards Laura. But And I was kind of under the impression that he'd kind of given up on Sarah, and you were saying, like, I don't think he has, and that this episode seems to kind of reinforce what you were saying, which is that he's still into her.
He's torn.
Yeah. He still has... Yeah, he's torn, you know? This is the other remaining love triangle, other than the one that we're going to be talking a lot more throughout this episode. Namely the Jimmy Chelsea. Well, actually, that's a square. That's a square. That's a love square.
Well, it's I don't know.
Yeah.
A wave. Yeah. Because they don't all connect.
I like that, you know, to your point about him kind of being attracted to her being an influencer, he's talking about how he has sexual tension towards her.
Yeah.
Which is clearly, I mean, he doesn't know who she is, so obviously, outside of maybe just the emotional attraction that he's feeling to her, I think he's also kind of like, well, she must be really hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He says not even mentally, right? It's physical more than mental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he thinks she's super hot. I don't love him. I don't love Jeremy. He's not the worst. He's not like, we've seen some tough people to like on Love is Blind over the years. He's not one of like the top, but I mostly just find him kind of grating, and I don't know. I know like a little like I want to say Randy.
Randy.
Like, and I know this is coming from me in the last episode being like, we have to get a little bit more flexible when it comes to talking about sex, but there's something about like, he just reminds me of this little like rabbit who's like, oh, I just want to have sex. And I don't know, like, there's some way he carries it that I'm like, can you be a little bit more smooth?
You guys missed the pantomime.
There was a pantomime
that went along with that. Yeah, it was pretty brilliant.
That was a rabbit. But yeah, maybe we'll do a YouTube.
But yeah, I mean, Laura's all in for Jeremy, and is kind of, I think she's kind of done with the wishy-washiness. She's
Looks
just
like they're doing omelets, by the way.
Yes, it does look like they're. It looks like they're.
But
doing
anyway,
omelets.
go ahead. I cut you off.
But yeah, like, I think Laura is. She's kind of all in with Jeremy, and kind of wishes he would kind of up and pick her already and be done with it and stop considering somebody else. And yeah, it is. He doesn't say a lot through her kind of talking through this. And yeah, it certainly feels like, yeah, I really thought he was all in for Laura and maybe a little bit for Sarah. And now it seems a little bit more even split. Yeah.
Who do you think he would be a better fit with?
Fit? I think he would be a better fit with Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I mean, he says that he can't think of a negative. But yeah, their energy seems to be good. I feel like they get along.
Yeah, even though I'm not wild about him, I think he fits Laura better. But like kind of exactly what I said about them last time, is that they might get engaged. I don't see them. If they do get married, I don't see it lasting. I think they'll have a lot of fights on the honeymoon, the pre-honeymoon.
Yes.
But to couples we feel a little bit better about, we go to Clay D.
Clay D. Ah.
Been sitting on that one for a while, actually.
All right. Clay
You're
D.
welcome.
And not the one I was thinking of. Adelaide. Adelaide. Nope, that's worse. I get it. I hear it out loud.
Where Clay is like, yo, what's up is you cracked me open, baby, and I am totally in love with you, and let's, yeah.
Also wild that he joined the show without having seen the show.
I know.
You have so much material you can, like, this is
right.
This is a big thing you're signing up for. You'd think that he would have looked it up a little bit more.
Right.
But he is quite smitten, he's taken. And I love the fact that AD doesn't kind of like, she is kind of hanging on to him kind of saying like, that physical attraction is so important to him. It doesn't look like she's going to let that slide. And I appreciate that, Yeah,
we get to, he says in this episode what we were lamenting he did not say in the previous episode. Where we were like, he never comes right out and says, hey, it's not so important to me. He does in this conversation. And I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still clear that physical attraction
Sure.
is really important to him.
Yes.
And look, that's not to say that physical attraction is important to people. That, we can't completely set that aside. Physical attraction is important in a relationship. or not to put down relationships that don't rely on physical attraction, but it is a component in many, many, many relationships.
Right.
And he is making it very clear that that's going to be, like, he's made it clear already that it's going to be something that's important to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he is just, I think the thing that is surprising him is that he was able to fall in love despite not knowing what AD looks like. And there's an aspect of what he's saying, which is like, he's just kind of being like, I think you're going to be hot anyway. Which I don't know if that's the full embracing of the experiment.
Yeah.
But, what ends up happening is they get engaged.
Right.
And it's pretty exciting to see, They're cute.
It's pretty cute.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, you're right. Physical attraction, of course, is a big component for many relationships. And so it's like, what is it that's off-putting about him being so direct about it? I don't know. It might be this coyness we have in our culture about this kind of thing,
Yeah.
I feel like we as a culture kind of can't get where we stand on this straight, and it's sort of like talking about money, It's like something that is important, but we don't talk about it. And if you are on a show that's designed to like kind of take this, what can be an uncomfortable topic, off the table, and then it's being brought back, I think it would feel a little bit like, I thought this was a place I wasn't going to have to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's more like a boundary violation, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here, but I both understand why it's important, and I understand why it would be off-putting to have it be talked about.
Right.
Right. But yeah, she says yes. Clay D is happening, and so too are our local Southern Christians. Kenneth
what
and
a way to describe
Brittany.
Yeah. Ken and Brittany.
I mean, I think they would describe themselves that way. It's a
Hi.
very big, important part of their connection.
Hi, I'm a local Southern Christian.
Hi. Also, I'm not at all local to Charlotte, North Carolina, just so you know.
But yeah, they seem to be getting along. Brittany was unsure whether there's going to be a kiss or not. She was looking forward to a little conservative kiss, and I think that's pretty much exactly what ends up happening. And they seem pretty cute together. They seem to be into each other. They seem to be happy with the way each other looks.
Yeah, I like
which
them.
is, I think, what. Whether we're saying it out loud or not, this is what this first meeting for every couple is like, are they okay with how the other person looks?
I think, yeah, and I think if you're pretty in love with somebody, if they're at all in the ballpark of what you're down for, you're going to be into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the integration moment, which I think happens for every single couple,
Yes.
which is the moment where they go
On the bench.
Yeah, where they go like, oh, I hear your voice, and I'm now fitting it to your face and body.
Yeah.
Which is, it feels like every single couple ends up having it at some point in this first meeting. I don't know if every couple ends up having it exactly here. Some of them, I think, end up having it maybe later on. But they certainly do, where they're kind of like sitting down on the bench, and there's a moment of like, oh, yeah, and I hear who you were. I hear the person that you were. I'm hearing it now, and I'm attaching it to this face.
It's always cute to see that.
Yeah.
It is a trip when you've just heard someone's voice, and then you see what they look like. You're like, huh?
Yeah.
It's really cute, his reaction, how he's so over the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I were in her shoes, I would want someone to be saying that, like, oh, like thanking the Lord for bringing me into their life, Yeah. Andrei.
I thank the Lord every day.
I totally can't tell if you're joking right now. I think we are grateful. I don't know.
I'm grateful. I will put it that way.
Then we go over to Trevor and Chelsea and the exchange of gifts. I like Trevor so much.
I really like Trevor.
Yeah. he seems like just a good dude.
Yeah.
And I hope these two get together. Like, they make sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she gives him a little vibrating wristband that when she taps it, it vibrates for him so that, they could know that they're thinking about each other, which is adorable. And then he gives her the collar of his dog.
Yep.
With the name Chelsea on it and a rock.
Mm-hmm. A Love is Blind rock. Did you catch? Yeah.
Does the rock say Love is
No,
Blind?
it says love, but you can put your fingers over it to read love like you would with Braille. So it's Love is Blind.
But it's not, to be clear,
100% here for that.
It's
not really
it's
Braille.
It's not Braille. Okay, it just says love,
Yeah.
but it's etched in so you could feel it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cute. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, it's like, you got to stretch that metaphor, but he's had this rock for years. So, side note, I was like, that's a pretty big deal that these things that you've had for years and years, apartment to apartment, you're giving to somebody who might ultimately not choose you. I mean,
I think if are we saying apartment to apartment? He may have been in one place and there's just a rock that said love somewhere on a shelf.
I think he mentions multiple.
Okay. I love Trevor. I think he's great. I think Trevor's great. I think his gifts are cute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to put down his gifts.
Your stupid rock.
It's
not even really Braille.
Rock. I'm sorry, Trevor.
You could read that.
Sorry.
You could read that in non-Braille, Trevor.
But Trevor is clarifying that he's in, all in, and he is kind of waiting on Chelsea to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea is being kind of kept, juggled up and down between Jimmy and Trevor.
Yep.
And so when we next shift to Jimmy and Jessica, we're reminded that Jimmy himself is not decided,
Mm-hmm.
And their conversation is not one that goes particularly well because
I would say that
she gives him this like really sweet letter about how she loves him and like it makes him really emotional, and she describes like the things that she would want to do for him and how their marriage would be. He gets really emotional from it, and then I think is just kind of like, I can't reciprocate. I cannot say the things that you've said here. I can't say back to you.
Right.
And I think he's just trying to, what I think he's trying to avoid the situation where he tells both Chelsea and Jessica that he loves them.
He's trying to actually be a good dude, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he's also, it's so tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky for this show because it is true that for a lot of these folks, this seems like their opportunity to meet somebody and go through this entire process and come out potentially married with somebody that they're going to be married with for the rest of their lives. And I think Jessica was, I don't think Jessica is, maybe it's me. I don't necessarily think that she would have a lot of trouble finding a husband, but maybe she does. Maybe it's the fact that she's a mother. Maybe it's a lot of things, that contribute
Mm-hmm.
to that. But yeah, it is tough to feel as though, she's missing an opportunity by the fact that he's kind of saying, I can't make this decision. I can't, I haven't been able to figure this out. And it's kind of coming down to the wire, I'm guessing this is what, like day 8, day 9?
I'm thinking it's day 9, yeah.
When they're having this conversation, yeah. And yeah, they kind of get into an argument in this scene, where ultimately I have to give it up to Jessica. She's kind of like, look, I get that you need to think about this, and I'm disappointed, but also I get it. You need to think about this, and I'm not going to say you have to say something now, She wants to give him the time. I think she has feelings for him, and she is to the point that he makes she's more direct than he is. I think she's also at this point, like, Jimmy is the only person that she's there seeing. I don't recall. Was she seeing anybody else for any period of time?
No,
I think it was
him.
just pretty much just straight to Jimmy, you know? So, yeah. She's kind of in the position that Trevor's in, where Trevor's like, I'm not seeing anybody else, and Jessica's like, I'm not seeing anybody else, and they're kind of like putting their eggs in one basket. And yeah, Jimmy's kind of holding that basket, and Chelsea's kind of holding the other side of that basket. What do you think? What do you think of this scene?
Yeah, I think I mostly agree. I think I just feel differently. I mean, I agree that I definitely agree that they're fighting.
Cool.
I think it's a really big deal to decide to marry somebody. And if I had 10 days only to make that decision, I would want all 10 days, you know? He says he doesn't want to say he can commit when he's really not sure how he feels about being a stepdad. And that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think is actually responsible, because it's not just a rejection of her, right? It's not just signing up for her, it's signing up for a whole lifestyle. And it would be worse if he said yes just to say yes and to be in this kind of fantasy, when in his heart of hearts he knew that he would have a challenge with that. And her reaction, it's she just flips so suddenly. And I think she's been a little bit in La La Land, because as far as we know, she told him that she had a kid. He had that real silent moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she wishes he had been more transparent, or at least direct, about he's also talking to Chelsea. Maybe that's like, she wanted it to not matter to him that she had a kid, and to just say yes anyway, because this is fun. Like, yeah, like, that's all that matters. That's all that should matter. Hey, I'm here with you. And he's burst in her bubble. So it's not just like a rejection, or what feels like a rejection of her, even though I think it's not just like her as a person. But I think she's been in a fantasy land. And I see her as being like, I talked about it last time, that abandonment trauma, I see that as taking over right now. You know, because it's such a drastic shift. It's like, a moment ago, I love you, I'm pouring my heart out to you, I'm going to love you through everything. And then, hey, I have some reservations about you having a kid. Go screw off, right? It's such a 180 that it's like, you know, there's that. So that was my thought with her. And yeah, we find out that he made his decision after this date, and I can see why. You know, she's having a very strong reaction. It's not that I don't understand feeling hurt and rejected and a little foolish, but the anger that comes is like, you are on a show where this is what's happening. And it sounds like she does have an idea that Chelsea is in the picture, even though maybe they haven't talked about it directly, you know?
I think I think she's been aware of the fact that Chelsea's been in the picture in the same way that he's been aware that Trevor's been in the
Right.
picture. They don't say it out loud to each other until I think it was either this scene or the next scene, but they certainly have been aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that she
Mm-hmm.
was under the impression that she was number one.
Well, I think it's just like, it's that fear of abandonment coming in, and the very real threat of abandonment, like a not unfounded threat, is putting her in her instant defense mechanism of like, well, I'm going to get, I'm not going to feel this. I'm going to get angry at you instead.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, really, like maybe it just hurts to feel rejected.
Right.
Yeah. But that obviously has a big effect on Jimmy, and he probably wasn't going to go for her anyway because it sounds like the kid is a really big deal to him. But I think her reaction made that decision easier for him.
Right.
Yeah. To his credit, he speaks kindly of her back in men's quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And does seem more torn about it, but
Yeah, I mean, he says that he just doesn't feel like he was prepped for it, and it is interesting how both of these conversations, despite the fact that obviously there's a lot of strong feelings here, that for the most part they're respectful of each other.
yeah.
Like even Jessica, when she goes back, she was obviously hurt by the fact that she had poured her heart into that letter, and he wasn't able to express a single emotion back to her,
Mm-hmm.
other than like, I really like you and I have love for everything about you, I believe is the way he put it. But she's still like, I want to give him the chance to think, to like make this decision. It's a big decision.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it's obviously takes a whole different step when Jimmy sees Chelsea in the very next scene, and they are talking, and Jimmy, they sort of like reveal to each other who they've been seeing, and then Jimmy was like, I love you, which throws Chelsea off pretty completely, because now she has two people who have said love her, and I don't think she had expected that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she had expected to be in this position. I think she was expecting that she was going to get rejected by Jimmy, and which would have made her decision easier,
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what happens,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think it doesn't help that he starts by being not in a great mood, and she's like, all right, well, I wish this weren't happening, but I guess it's here, so let's talk about it. I can see it being a mind trip if he's like starting your date being spent on another woman, and then it's like, I love you. Like, whoa, it's either that was going. Do you think that he loves her, or do you think that he is just really put off by what happened with Jessica?
Well, here's the thing. I think he has stronger feelings for Chelsea because otherwise, before anything bad had happened with Jessica, before, we'd had any of that sort of like the reaction from Jessica, he had read that beautiful letter from Jessica, right?
Yeah.
Like, which made him emotional. It made him feel a lot. And he could have, at the end of that, said pretty much just even a little bit more than what he did. And he didn't. He just kind of shut down.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly contributed to the way Jessica reacted,
He could have been more expressive with his words. Be like,
Yeah.
I really love so much about you,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I can be a stepdad, and I really need to think about that. Yeah, for sure. He could have. He's a man of few words.
Yeah. But he certainly tells Chelsea he loves her.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we cut back to
the ladies' lounge.
it it is this split conversation between Jessica and the ladies and Chelsea and the ladies,
Mm-hmm.
and
Chelsea tells Laura what happened.
well, Chelsea tells Brittany. Oh no, yeah,
No,
you're right. Chelsea tells Laura what happened. You're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jessica's talking to Brittany, and Laura decides to be the go-between, and is
Right.
like, okay, I'm going to involve myself here and tell Jessica she should leave, which
Right.
is a little instigating. I get that. I think she's trying to do it from like a I'm going to protect you, but I'm also like, I think maybe let this develop on their own, let them talk to each other. I think kind of just going up to Jessica and being like, you should leave.
Yeah, without more information.
Without more
I
information,
think you should leave.
without saying like, hey, what has happened actually is that he said he loved. Like, even just saying that would have been maybe a little bit better than this repeated you should leave, which I think kind of freaks Jessica out maybe even more
than the truth would have. I agree with that. I wondered, Chelsea obviously feels close enough with Laura that she confides in her.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what Laura and Chelsea's relationship is like. Maybe Laura felt caught between a rock and a hard place because she doesn't want to necessarily betray what Chelsea told her, but she also wants to protect Jessica. That's like my most favorable read on the Laura situation. My less favorable read is like there's an element of her that's trying to incite some drama.
Yeah.
But, but that, I think largely that's because I kind of get an uneasy vibe about Laura in general. I think if I got a different vibe from her, I would be more inclined to give her the more generous interpretation. And I still probably do feel inclined to give her that, but there is a question mark about, it was just an awkward way to handle that situation.
Right.
So it makes you think. But we bounce on over from that heartbreak to Clay D and their first meeting, which goes really, really well.
Yeah, they seem to get along fine. They seem to be real attracted to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Clay finds her really attractive. She finds Clay really attractive. Clay finds himself really attractive.
Mm-hmm. Clay finds himself really attractive.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I certainly noted that when they first like meet up, Clay's like, yeah, look at me, look at what you're getting.
Well, she finds herself attractive too because she's like, check out my badonka dog.
I mean, sure, yeah. I guess they're both proud. That's not a bad thing to be.
Yeah,
they're attractive people. What can we say?
Own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't let society tell you otherwise, people. You are brilliant and beautiful. I love it.
They look hot. They're happy. He cuddles on her chest.
There's this like, I was gonna try to be on board no matter what, but I'm sure I am happy that I'm attracted to you. Which is like fair. Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna have a lot of fun.
He seems to have softened a lot. And again, this did happen with Shake too, but I think the difference is Clay is legitimately attracted to AD, whereas Shake was not attracted to Deepti, which is dumb because Deepti's awesome. But I don't think we'll have. Think it will play out differently for that reason. Yeah.
Now, what remains to be seen is whether the vulnerability he was expressing is something that ultimately was just about like his fear about losing AD and the connection that they were forming, or whether there is like a true sort of commitment to being a little bit more vulnerable, because that's the kind of thing that will start to show.
Yeah.
In the following
He's going to slip
weeks.
back into the bravado for sure. Or if not on the honeymoon, then when they go back home, it's going to be a theme that comes up, and we'll just have to see which version of him wins out, But kind of we close with returning to the Jimmy, Trevor, Chelsea, Jessica, love
quadrangle
rhombus.
It's
no, because that would have to be Trevor and Jessica being into each other, which
is it just a line?
A love line.
A love line.
This is love line throwback.
Oh,
yeah, it's a line. It is a line. That's what shape that is.
I mean, yeah, I think it is a line.
Yep, I think it's a line too. So, good call on that for all you math nerds out there, for all you geometry nerds.
And you commented on this too when we were watching it, but it's kind of nice that Trevor and Jimmy are just kind of like, you know what? It's cool. Like, I feel for Chelsea. That must be a tough decision.
You're a good dude. I'm a good dude.
Yeah, like, we're both great choices. I think I'm pretty great, but you probably think you're pretty great too.
Yeah.
And you are pretty cool. So that's fine. They're like laughing about it. They're like, and I also don't doubt that for both of them, they're having a lot of emotions, you know, like a lot of strong emotions about this, but they're sort of like, yeah, it kind of will come out the way it'll come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also didn't catch this before, but it looks like part of their household decor is a dinosaur skeleton.
No, it's a little dinosaur.
Little dinosaur.
Or,
I mean, compared to what's happening on the girls' side, which is like they're totally at each other's throats, and where Trevor, I guess, is in Jessica's shoes, and he's like, yeah, okay. Which I think he's being like super chill about it. I think most people would not be in his camp, but it's like they could not be having more opposite reactions in the world, you know?
Yeah. Where
he's like, hey, I think I'm a better fit, but I get why she likes him, and he's a good dude, and, you know, go for it. Like, I hope it's the right choice for her. And Jessica's like, go. If I could drop a comment on you right now, I would. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's different. It's like it triggered her. I think she's in her trauma.
And I mean, I think the thing that Trevor is describing as Jimmy walks out of the room, it might be what the next episode begins with, because he says he's nervous about him walking back in and saying, I'm engaged to the girl you're about to propose to. Because, you know, spoilers, but the episode ends with us not knowing who gets to talk to her first. And I think, oddly enough, that's going to make a difference.
I think that's what she's going for. Which one of you asked me first? I think she even said, I'm not going to say I love you until until someone asks me.
Yeah.
Right? So which is like, I guess that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We return to Jimmy calling things off with Jessica, and yeah, again, I completely understand that she's in pain. But I think how we handle ourselves in this situation is, I don't know, it's complicated, because I just see a very wounded person reacting here, you know, right. And I have a lot of compassion for that, but I can have that and also recognize how if I were in Jimmy's shoes, this would only be making me feel better about my decision.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because this is going to come up over the course of a life, you know? She's going to be on Instagram, and she's going to, even if it was totally innocuous, see someone messaged him, especially now that he's going to be a celebrity, right? Like, and this would continue to be a thing. And yeah, I hope that she is able to heal from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, she asks for directness from him during their meeting, and he does. He essentially just says, okay. Yeah. But it does suck that, like, to her point, he made his decision the other night at the end when she was just reacted the way she did.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she spent the entire night thinking that he was going to come back with a different answer, and I think he had already made his choice to a certain extent. And look, I thought that her exit line was pretty great. I was like, her like,
you're gonna regret this.
You're gonna see a photo of me, and you're gonna be like, what did I give up on? And I think that might be right. I think he is going to think that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in any way to imply that Chelsea is not attractive, but I do think that, he I don't know what he's imagining, but I think he will sort of like have a moment of regret. And yeah, this relationship is done.
Yep.
And it is...
At least for now. I mean, don't forget we have all of those reunions.
Right.
Where this will surely be a thing. But she is extremely upset and leaves. And then, it's like, I get it. Being rejected always really sucks. And also, there's been enough episodes of the show that you got to know what's up, and I totally also get how that would be a lot easier to know in theory than when you're actually in it. But yeah, and again, I don't think Jimmy handled it totally awesomely. He could have been more expressive, like you said, and maybe it was the wrong call to not say, like, I'm choosing between, I have a connection with somebody else more directly when they were talking. But I feel like either one would actually have been upsetting. If he doesn't say anything that's upsetting, if he says something that's upsetting, it's just an upsetting situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And, Chelsea is then stuck with the decision. Brittany very soundly reminds her, Jimmy wasn't going to give you any answers a long time ago, whereas Trevor has kind of been like, you're my one. But it does seem that Chelsea is seeing them, obviously we don't know. The full extent of their conversations is not something we'll ever really have access to, so we don't necessarily know how, but she does see it as like these two people would fit into my life differently. And I think that's kind of what her choice comes out to is like how the ways in which she thinks they would fit into her life. And yeah, I don't know what she's gonna choose, because I there's a part of me that thinks it's gonna come down to who she gets to see first.
Right. I think so too, which is wild. But I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, who does she have the first date with? Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is that Jimmy is straight up coming off of having just broken up with Jessica, and he's now planning on asking Chelsea to marry him. So with like the emotional roller coaster that he's on is pretty wild.
Yep.
To be doing that on the same day. Because I don't think that's generally the case. I think most of the time people have broken things off by the time they get to day 10, They're not like waiting until the very last day to be like, okay, I'm going to end things with you and I'm going to, pick the other person. It feels like those are decisions that tend to happen a little bit earlier. But to your point, you were like, I'll use my 10 days.
Yeah, I would use those 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, who knows what I would actually do, but in my mind, I would use those 10 days.
Yeah. But we don't know how it ends because there's the cliffhanger.
Yep.
Cliffhanger.
And that is where this ends. And so, too, shall that be where we end this recap episode.
Ends
good
here.
Plot thickens. Still like these people more so far. We'll see how things devolve.
Yeah.
Probably Mexico or something.
And we still don't have a cat anymore.
Looks like the Dominican Republic is where they go.
Ooh, Dominican Republic. Yeah, there's the description.
Yeah, still no. Goodbye, Bentley. Please subscribe, Like us, 5-star us.
And send us a cute review.
Yeah. Engage with us. We really do enjoy it.
Honestly, you can send us a bad review as long as you then give us 5 stars. You disagree with that?
I'm going to disagree with that scene. My take on that scene is trauma. No, I think, sincerely give us whatever review you want, but obviously in your heart of hearts, it's 5 stars. So, or you're a bad person.
Oh, wow. Okay. On that note,
Andrei has to remind me not to alienate our fan base sometimes.
Just from time to time. I'm like, ixnay on the... Okay.
On the alienate. Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
No, we do love you guys. And we are out. We will see you for episode 5.
We are out of here. Bye.